Hi, I'm Celeste and welcome to Find Your Purple. Today is day 13 of SSSVEDA, a video every day for the month of August. And it's day 3 on my juice fast. I am going to continue today. After my appointment this morning, I'm going to run to the grocery and pick up a couple watermelons, and I'm going to go on a full mono juice, which would be only one fruit, and I choose the watermelon. There's a lot of reasons the watermelon is a good choice for fasting. People go on 21 days, I guess even 40 days of watermelon only, but don't plan on doing that. The max I would do is maybe 5, maybe 7, but today would be day 3. So I'll let you know how it goes the rest of the week. But again, for me, I'm just trying to give my system a rest. I've never done this before, and in 60 years, I've got so much accumulated that I need to do some additional things to help cleanse of the toxins that I've been putting in my system. So my thought for the day is a term that I used to hate, saying it's intuitive. The one time I remember hearing it and I wanted to slap the guy was in college. I went to Purdue University, go Boilermakers, and it was a statistic course. I was at the Cranert Business School, and it was a statistic course, and I think it was the professor's assistant, but he's explaining statistics, and math in general wasn't my strong suit. And he would start with saying, well, this is intuitive, so I won't explain that, and go to the next steps. Well, everything is not intuitive. Now, many things are, but it used to just drive me nuts because he would use that phrase all the time and skip explaining something that I wanted to know step by step. That's the kind of learner I am. Let me do it step by step so I memorize it rather than just some people can look at it and intuitively know. Same thing when you get a phone. Sometimes they'll say, it's very intuitive. Well, intuitive's in the eye of the beholder. But there are some things that I think are intuitive for people, and one is you should eat healthy in order to be healthy. So what you eat, it would make sense if you're honest and you stop and think about it, that what you put in your body will affect how you function. And again, I mentioned earlier videos, we, especially in the US, seem to gloss over that. We don't want to hear it, so we don't. We don't want to look at it, so we don't. I'm big on, you find a study that chocolate's good for you, well, you won't have to look at the fact that maybe the chocolate industry wrote the study or something, but you're like, that's a fact I want to hear. I saw it in writing on the internet. It must be true, so I can eat all the chocolate I want. Or coffee. You read some that coffee's great for you. Coffee's not good for you. But those studies can show anything is good for you if you want to go out and look for it. You can go out on the internet if you want to take a time and probably find reports or blogs or anything that will say something is good for you. Whether that's meat, whether it's dairy, whether it's certain drugs, whether it's caffeine, whether it's chocolate, eggs, soy, and many times the source of those, when you really dig deep, are the industries that are selling them. But we have been reading commercials without realizing we're reading commercials. There's some major companies that have departments that's all they do is have people spread out remotely doing blogs and all of that about their products, or so that it looks like it's coming from the masses and our peers, and yet in fact those people are being paid by the industry that's supporting it. So it's really something you have to be careful of when you read things and what you believe and what you don't. And I'm finding that's tough sometimes to sift through. So I do what my brother and sister do. They work on the genealogy, and they're working on the family charts. And they always say you need 2 or 3, maybe even 4 corroborating pieces of evidence to verify that that person is the right person. Because it's too easy to just grab a name or 2 details and say that's the right person, and they say you can get off track that way. So they always are having to document why did they add that person to the tree. And they have, again, it was 2, 3, or 4 different pieces of evidence have to be found to support that. And I think we need to do that with our health, our faith, who we listen to. what pastors are out there. Again, I mentioned last year I think, that I went to a church, and it was a Bible-based. It was the first church I went to in, the 40 years I wasn't going to church, and it was a all-inclusive church, and it was actually Unity, and they don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, but they also are very inclusive, and it's very much take what you believe, what they say, see what works for you, and just let the other go. And they would, talk on the Bible every week. So I thought I was on the right track and safe and all of that. Now, when I told my siblings that, I thought they'd be excited I was going to church, and it was a Bible-based church, they kind of freaked out when I told them it was Unity. And I didn't understand until this past year when I started reading the Bible on my own, and again, it didn't rely on someone else telling me what the Bible said. I read it, and I don't know how you can read it and not say that Jesus is the Son of God. And it says in there, and that's the only way to get to heaven is if you believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So, again, whether it's diet, whether it's health, whether it's fitness, do you do aerobic, anaerobic? There's just so many different opinions on everything that you gotta take the responsibility for your own body, your own soul. And I think if you stop and think, using food as the example, when you're eating something that's bad for you. Sometimes it even makes you feel bad, but you still eat it anyway because you enjoy that few minutes that it's in your mouth. And when you think about it, it literally is only a few minutes that it feels good, and then the rest of the time you're dealing with the consequences of it. So I'm kind of going through a lot of those things now. What is intuitively making sense for me to do? And not for everybody, but just where I am. Again, I've been 2 years on no meats and no dairy, so now I'm hopping into a fasting where I couldn't have done that 2 years ago. And but I'm hoping I can start detoxing and getting rid of the toxins, because that wasn't even on my mind the last 2 years. But now in my 60s, I've got to get rid of that stuff so my body can heal, because God made us amazingly. That I think some doctor said some study that every 7 years, every cell in our body is regenerated, which is miraculous in and of itself. But you have to think about, is that new cell going to be a healthy cell or an abnormal cell? And that's based on what are you feeding it. So, if you're feeding it junk for 7 years, then you're going to get a bunch of abnormal cells, and you're going to get into health issues, and whether it's autoimmune issues or arthritis or swelling or inflammation, and all the myriad of illnesses all come down to toxicity and malnutrition. So I'm doing the fasting, but it's a juice fast, and again, today's going to be watermelon, so I'll see how it goes, and see if I'm going to break it tomorrow or not, and I'll just go with the flow here. But as always, again, I already drank my juice, so I don't have a juice to say, but normally, as always, grab your cup of juice or tea or whatever, sit back, and let's start sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.